I don't know.
Yeah, you did.
Manyoko so wida ya son anamu Tia kwale bato we otomo ni o ya do mo si akwiye ya o Amo manyoko so wida ya son dembe mu o ya Tia kwale bato we otomo ni o ya do mo si akwiye ya o Tia se pa yanju o se pa yanju o Sapa yanju ka o kiyan ma si apa yanju o so si olele o si olele o ya si olele lele o ya si olele yo amo manyo ko so wi ya son dembe mu Tiyan pa ni ba to wi otomo ni o abiyan mi do mo si awiye ya o Kiyan se pa yan jijo mama Kiyan se pa yan jijo re son ke wo kiyan ya kiyan se pa yan ju o Kiyan ya uri money mo re tole se ma bembe son bi Kiyan ya uri manjo e abatoni Passion même oh Kian ya we money More tole se ma même pio abinyo be Wo kian
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Tough Talking Thursday. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Tough Talking Thursday, we're going to be looking at the major issues in 2023 elections. And when we talk about the major issues, we are talking about the census and the voter registration, how they impact elections 2023. We're going to talk about things like vote buying. What is the impact and how does the current atmosphere set the stage or doesn't set the stage for vote buying? We're going to talk about campaign laws or the laws from the NEC, how they are to be able to curb what is to happen and not to happen. We're going to be looking at all this on Tough Talking Thursday. I have with me to sort this all out Dr. Abdoulaye Dukle. Dr. Dukle is a career diplomat. He's also a writer, a journalist, and someone who has a history of working with presidents. Dr. Duke, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dennis. I'm happy to be here, and hello to everyone. I'm mostly a teacher. I'm a teacher mostly, so.
Right. Okay. He's teaching online and face-to-face, everything in between. That's Dr. Duke. Welcome. Let me also welcome another teacher, a math teacher in the Philadelphia school system, Mr. Kalebo Gonglo. He eats, drinks, and sleeps statistics, so he likes to go to the numbers. He is a panelist here on Tough Talking Thursday. He is the founder of the African Math Genius Project. Mr. Gonglo, welcome to the show.
My pleasure. And Dennis, let me just correct you there. I teach with the Chester Auburn School District, not Philadelphia School District.
Yeah, Chester. We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Tough Talking Thursday. On Thursday, we put everything aside to talk tough on the issues that matter to, especially to our dear country. Please invite a friend, share the show, and let's talk tough. We're going to start with the voter registration, or the BVR, just ended. And I'm going to put on the screen some numbers to let you think about this more. So before the voter registration, we had the national and population census. It took place, and there was a lot of outcry, especially when the numbers came, and people were saying, how come Grand Crew and other counties have so much number? At the start of the voter registration, there was a lot of cry, but at the end, we didn't hear that much outrage about the numbers. Maybe things are working out fine. We don't know, but we're going to sort it all out. So let me share with you some of the numbers we're trying to put together here. The first column is our 2022 census, where Bowman County had 133.6 thousand, Bong 467. Voter registration, we look at 2017 numbers and 2023 numbers, and we look at the net change. Did they go down? All of them were positive, meaning we are increased in the numbers. So for Bowman County, there was a 4,000 people added from 2017 to 2023. For Bong County, we have 29,634 added. For Bapulu, we have 3,344 new people added there on the last voters list. For Bassa, 14,030 increase. Cape Mount, 20,000. Grand Jide, 1,000. Grand Cru, 7,000. Lofa, 10. Mount Gibby, 33,000. Maryland, 10,000. Monserrado, 136. River 6. Nimba, 29,000. River 6, 4,000. River G, 2,000, like 2,800 added. And Sino County, the increment of 8,228 voters added to the roster. That's the numbers, and let me start. My first question is, what's your response to the increase, the numbers from 2017 till now? What does that tell you?
Yes, Dennis, if I may go first on this issue, if you go back a few months ago, when the census preliminary figures, I like to say that preliminary figures of the census were released, there were a lot of public outcry on this very show. And the concern they had was, once the population figures for most southeastern counties increased sharply, they read more that it meant the government was trying to cheat. And I argue on this show that there is no correlation between, I should say, positive or negative, between census and registered voter. There is no correlation, because voter registration is based on a constitutionally defined criteria. You must obtain certain age. You must live in that constituency. So those are limits that would not just cause anybody to just arbitrarily increase. So census, you could have more new births. You could have internal migration. You could have immigration as well. From refugee could be returning since we're a post-war nation. Maybe probably most refugees return to some of the countries in the southeast, particularly those are along the borderline, the Grand Jide, Maryland, River G. Those are all possibilities, and we argue here that until we see the VR, the registered voter, we cannot make that. Now, that's why you don't hear from any political party, because the registration show that not much change from 2017, So for me, I think we are on a good footing. I agree, and I also know that cheating election does not start or occur only on the date of election. It occurs gradually, and sometimes it starts long before even the process starts. But we can discuss this further. But the numbers you see with regard to voter registration, I think the fear of those who had that inherent fear that there will be cheating, I think it fell flat. The numbers speak for itself. Number is a hard truth. Numbers are very stubborn truth that can also leave any room for doubt. The numbers are very clear on the screen. You know,
Thank you.
all of the total registered voters from the Southeast in all of the 5 counties you put together is less than the one that registered in Nimba. Probably even less than the one that registered in Bonn. Okay, so all that fear people have, it vanished.
Dr. Duke,
Yeah.
what do you make of the voter registration numbers, especially when you look at the net change?
Really, I don't know much about numbers. Really, I don't know. I mean, especially when you talk about this kind of how they change. But something caught my mind. I look at this. I was looking at Grand Jede for this year, right?
Right.
You got 64,000 registered voters from the last year, and they added 1,000. By Grand Cru, 42,000, they added 7,000. Is that, for example, you could say this is because of migration? People move to Grand Cru because George Weah is president instead of moving to Monrovia. So those kind of little things that, caught my attention, that, how some counties, and then you do it per capita, it doesn't make sense. Because if you have a population of 64,000, a border county where people will return home, and that only add 1,000 out of the 64,000 people. And then you got 42,000 in Grand Cru, and they add 7,000 in the same period of time. So what, how do you explain that? Is Grand Cru aging faster, or they have more migrants, or they have more displaced people coming back to Grand Cru?
What could explain that? Could mean more people register in Grand Cru than Grand Jede. And probably because Grand Jede is where people come from a lot of places to work. So they may not be registering in Grand Jede. They may go back to their counties of origin like Nimba to register.
But I can even also add that, too. In Grand Cru, there are a lot of illicit money activities taking place in Grand Cru. Look, I think there is a place in Grand Cru. Is that where they have Philadelphia in Grand Cru?
Philadelphia,
Southeast. There's a place.
I think it's in Sino, right? Is it in Sino?
Is that Sino where they have Philadelphia?
Yeah, I think so.
Dennis, are you hearing me? I'm not from the Southeast.
No, I don't know of Philadelphia in any of those places.
No, I traveled through that place many times to go to Maryland.
There is a place I suspect it's either Grand Cru or Sino, one of them. But in fact, for example, in Grand Cru, there is a large influx of people from Nimba. There's a large influx of fuller population in Sano and Grand Cru, those 2 counties. Before you go to Greenville, you think you are in maybe Guinea. So that could explain, because some people don't know that many fuller people have actually taken steps to obtain citizenship in Liberia. The fuller population is becoming increasingly politically attractive. That probably explains why even George Weah had a religious advisor who is a Fuller man, who is Fulani. So you look at the numbers of Fulani becoming citizens, it's interesting. So even some political parties may be attracting even the Fuller vote. They may be throwing a net out there for it. But due to a layer of fear, actually, that could be largely due to internal migration.
I remember one time somebody was talking about the Fuller people and the Fuller bread, and the Fuller people said, I think it was, I think it was 74. Togo was president. And on that Saturday, the Fuller people didn't make bread. So there was no bread Saturday and Sunday. In Monrovia, I said, okay. So stop talking about the Fuller people, leave them alone before they start baking bread.
No, I'm not making the point. Look, in 1999, I was working on a project DHS survey, demographic health survey in Sino. And when I went down Greenville in the city, I was like, am I daydreaming, all of the stores were owned by Fula people. And what were they buying? They were buying gold in those stores at the same time selling commodities. You know, even though I was in signing for different things, but also doing all that stuff, taking pictures and documenting all that stuff. I went to the Greenville port and I saw abandoned watching logs and I took pictures of it. It appeared in New Democrat later when I returned to Monrovia. So you go in the southeast because this is a rich, fertile region, mineral. But a lot of the citizens live in Monrovia, and people from other countries are there. In fact, there are stories. I can confirm that. There are stories that Apoche is senator today because of the Nima vote in Grand Cru.
So if we take a look at the census, if we look at the census numbers for 2022 and look at the voter registration numbers, do you see a correlation here? Or are there things that I say, how can this be? Let us also bear in mind that census does not mean the people are qualified to vote. But take, for instance, in Sino, you have 150,358 human beings. Those who registered to vote in 2017 were 47,891. And in 2023, we have 56,119. And we can look at other counties, right? Montserrado being the Montserrado, you see that the population there. What do you see between the census number and the voter registration numbers?
Clebo, this is your area.
Yeah, Dennis, I'm not sure we can impute anything more than that because here is a fact. The census numbers are more understandably so than the register of voters, right? Because our census number comprises of underage population. And our nation, our population is a very young population. Okay. So and bear in mind this census was taken beyond the stipulated statutory period. It should be taking 10 years, right? It's taking more than 10 years. So let's also add that factor. We are actually into another decade that we should be preparing for another census. Because this census from 2008 will have taken place in 2018. But it took place in 2022. So for 2 years, there were even substantial births that were registered. Okay, there could have even been international migration or net international positive migration to Liberia by returnees. So that could add but they were returning in different areas that if we are taking the census in 2018, they will not have been counted to be part of this. You see, so that's why. And the other thing is, when you look at the census, there is a page when they publish a final figure, you see that there is a page that shows population distribution by ethnicity or place of birth. So across the 15 counties, you see, in fact, that will help to explain some of the doubt people have. You'll say, okay, in Grand Cru, how many persons in Grand Cru that say they are Cru? How many persons in Grand Cru that say they are Gio, they are Ma, or they are Dan, or they are Gola, or they are Basso? That will explain. You might come to realize that, Grand Cru, if you add the population of other ethnic group, are probably more than or very close to the actual people who are natural, I would say original inhabitant of Grand Cru, or even Sino. Because those who say they are Fula, they'll be counted as Fula in the population and will be registered. So when you publish that will be an interesting place to look, to say, let's see the composition of the population per county. Let's look at the age structure of the population per county. That will even explain further to people. Oh, okay, yeah, we got this number, but a large percentage of the population is below 18. That will explain to people who have doubts.
And what is you keep talking about this doubt? Well, what is informing this doubt? Is it because people don't trust the NEC? People don't trust the government? People think that the NEC is not doing a good job? Why is this doubt?
Well, Liberia is notoriously a corrupt place, and Liberia has a history of not conducting free and fair elections in many instances. I mean, you talk to a typical sedition today, they will say, hey, they actually won in 2005, and they do believe that the international community kind of twisted their hands and took the result from them because they were not prepared. In 2011, they believed the same way that they've actually won in the first round, but they were forced to the second round because they didn't want Madam Sali to leave. They believed that. So, I mean, in 2017, Unity Party people who are more or less gearing up, maybe measuring the drapes today for the executive marshal, said they were cheated also in 2017. Okay, even though they appointed all the commissioners at the Elections Commission because they were the ruling party, but they said they were cheated. So that's a culture in society in Liberia. Whenever is not on your side, or whatever result is bad. So I think that doubt is coming from that fact, and the fact that George Weah is a president, even though he came originally from Grand Cru, but he was senator of Monserrado, and I think he has lived all his life in Monserrado. So he's a Monserrado man, you know. He's all little tied to Grand Cru, really. You know, he's more a Monserrado man than a Grand Cru man. So, but that suspicion is there.
Before we go on to something else, I'm thinking about this 26,000 double registration that they found in the VR process.
Right.
Can you sort of throw light on that? I mean, how that happened? Did they just when they open the book and say, yeah, we got 2 John Brown, or we got 2 Matilda, or something, or they have to go through? How that happen? And what's the impact? I mean, what does that mean really? When you get,
you mean how they found that out?
Yeah, and what does it mean for the whole process? Does it mean
Right.
that they're credible to say, okay, yes, they found 26,000, so therefore they're not going to cheat? So they are admitting that they were, are weak, because that's a weak link. There's something going wrong for people to be 26,000 people to be able to double register. If they admit with that, how many more are there? Is it all? Is that all?
But not just that, and also underage registration, those that they will turn over. So we're going to, but since you already talked about that, so we can discuss that, right? Here's the way I heard one or someone who supports the government say, well, people didn't trust the government or the NEC to do this, but see what? And we don't hear anything from the opposition political party leaders, unlike the census, when they went to the House to say, this doesn't look right, right? So now is the NEC people are boasting that this is a testament that we're doing a good job. In fact, look at what we found. We found 26,000 duplicates, and we found this other numbers of underage voters, and we in fact turning them over to the Justice Ministry for prosecution. So it makes the NEC look good, don't you think?
Except that then people will ask, I'm going to ask the question, how did that happen in the first place? You have machines that's supposed to detect these things right away. How does a young boy or young girl of 10, 11-year-old go into someplace and register to vote? Who gave that card? I mean, how they don't know the people's age? The problem is that I think they found it great. I'm saying how it happened.
I get what you're saying, right? Because we are using biometric.
Yeah. So when you take a picture, automatically, or you put a fingerprint on, it's supposed to say, okay, no, you're already in the system. So how did that happen? I think my question is how it happened more than 26. They could find 50,000. I don't care, but how did they happen? How did that mistake happen?
Well, but here's what I will try to explain, and I don't claim to have knowledge on this because that's technology. Here's what someone explained to me. The person said to me that that machine they're using, the system they're using, actually has different security features. Probably Dennis, who is a IT person, can explain this better. So if they disable some of those features, you will not be able to capture it. And for example, the time allotted to train those people who were in the field to do the registration, the time was short. I'm sure all of us heard different stories of how at some of the registration centers, people were using one finger to type or on the keyboard, because there were people. Computer is generally not popular in Liberia. Our high schools don't have computer lab. Our middle school, our elementary kids don't even see computer like that. Even in the University of Liberia does not even have, I would say, computer lab by any standard. Okay, so computer is a rare, as much as it's very critical, important at this time. It's not really widely used in our educational institutions. So those who are doing this work are graduates, high school graduates, college graduates. So the struggle, so they probably disable some of those features, because if something go wrong, say in Bagleyville, and you don't have someone who can handle that troubleshoot, and the person sitting down in Monrovia, that's a problem by itself. They probably disable some of those features, and now as the data comes into Monrovia, where the experts, as those with expertise are, they just probably enable those features, and now they can detect it. Okay, so
Right.
I think that's why the person's really happy, because for our village, the center is Tapeta. The guys who are doing registration in Glaze up here, in fact, people suspected they were undermining the process, because as Councillor Gonglo home, they said every 2 days the machine broke down, and they will get on motorbike and drive to Tapeta to troubleshoot and then come back. So people who come from other towns and villages, because it was like, okay, one town was attached, Lintren was attached to Glade. So Lintren people will come and say, oh, the people not here today. They say the machine broke down, they're gone. Then they're gone back, that farming town, they're going back to their village. So it happens so frequent that almost every 2 days the machine will break down. But they have to go Tapeta, more than 2 hours away, in order to fix it and then come back. And it happened. They'll go back again, get on motorbike and go. So imagine. So they probably disable some of
Right.
the security features. And as the data came in now to the data center, they enable those features and they can now
So,
detect it.
yeah, but you see, I think that, okay, that's where when you talk about cheating, all of that comes in, because you disable something, some parts of the machine to hit
And that's a
non-qualified
that's
people.
a speculation. It's not
It's a
proven, right?
speculation. That's what the person explained to him, because the person is an IT person. He knows about via biometric system. He said, look, there are so many features that they can enable, and by
And
the
this
time even some you put your finger there and you don't, the light's supposed to flash and reject you
oh.
right there on the spot.
And that's a legitimate question that we can even ask people at the neck
You can
as to
also
how this
disable
happened.
that same
But
feature.
my general question is, because of this, what will be the impact on the elections? Because we've detected this number thousands of duplicates that we have weeding out of the system, and we get another group underage. We're going to take them out because they are not supposed to be registering in the first place. What will be the impact?
But
More,
then
more credibility?
yeah, Dennis, what I understand, and I hope I'm correct on this. What I understand is that they use technology for the registration. They were trying to avoid these, uh, you know, kind of thing, double registration, which when you use a manual system, is easier to do. Okay, they're trying to. That's why they move to the biometric registration. So, but the actual voting process is going to still go back to what we are used to doing. People
Right.
vote after voting, you dip your finger into that ink, which will be difficult to move, and then and your of course your card will be perforated, bold, one time at a particular spot that the elections commission will say, when you vote for the first time, you board it under this place. If there's a runner election, they will board it to the other spot, right? And those, it will be security, and those internal the
Right.
administrators
Right.
know. So in essence, if we're going by that system, I want to believe there will still be sufficient checks and balances in the system to make the process credible. I mean,
Right,
like,
but what the NEC found, does that put more credibility in the process? That's my question.
well, for me, I would say yes, yes, because
Dr. Duke?
yeah, the fact that somebody can just come and say, "Oh, we found some errors," that's sufficient.
I wait for the final registry to say if it was justified or not, because I don't know. You found 26,000 and then 26 duplicates and a kids who registered on you under your watch, and then you just come up with numbers. Where are they? Where they come from? I want to see the last voter registration, the new voter registration thing done completely, and then we can talk about
What you mean the new voter registration?
No, the final VR. This is not final. The one they did is not final. I guess not. Is it?
And what difference is that going to make?
Well, then political parties will have it. It will be open to the public, and people can look at it.
Political parties are normally busy. They don't even look at these things.
Oh, they do. Some of them do. I think some of them will look at. I mean, if you don't look at it, then you're on your own. But in the process, I think all in all, I think what is more important is the protection of the votes, the ballot vote. The day of the balloting. Once we get to this point, the mechanism is all in place. And there are very few changes you can make into the process, the administrative process. But the problem is when you get people go to vote, how do you protect that, the integrity of the votes? I think that's what the most important thing. And then, if they have, yes.
But Dr. Du, if you cannot give them credit for finding the duplicates and the underage voters, I mean,
I'm not refusing to give them credit. I give them credit for finding them. I raise the issue first. I say yes, but I want to know more. Right. That's their job. They're supposed to do it. I'm not supposed to. I'm not going to thank them.
No. What I'm talking about is you say you are waiting for the fund and then you want to see more credibility at the ballot box. But cheating or any irregularity does not begin from the ballot box. So these are all ways of, being transparent and making the process very credible. So will you give them their prop now, even before the final?
Yes, they give numbers. It could give them, somebody could say, yes, they're credible because they're doing it. I'll just say, oh, okay, I'll still have my questions though.
Yeah.
I have my question. Always, when people come out and say,
Dr. Douglas, this discussion, let's reflect on the history of this. If you recall, political parties, even before 2017 elections and after 2017 elections, a contentious issue was cleansing the voter roll.
BVR.
You remember? ECOWAS even feeder delegation. They even sent RT person to work at the Elections Commission because there has been piles and piles of double registration. Registration from 2005 were all still on board. Okay, so it was difficult. It was a messy system to do, to just get rid of it, right? So next year we'll put aside all that registration. We'll dump it. Because it was done manually in different handwriting, they put it in the computer, blah, blah. Let's discard that. Let's go with a new system where people register. This one is captured by computer system. You can edit it easily. So let's get that picture. The father will now have a brand new voter roll, register voter roll. That it cannot be a point of reference. And that can easily, to their credit, they came and said, you
see, the internet will not allow him to give them credit.
Yeah. Let me also let our listening public know this. When you're doing registration, for example, in villages, you see a little child, a boy, Liberians generally, we don't, our nutritional base is so poor. We don't eat a lot of nutritious food. So many Liberians are average height. They're not tall like you, Dr. Do. So on average, there are very few people who are tall in Liberia. So you see someone that say this person is 19-year-old in the village. You will not believe it. The person is 19 years. So you don't get a chief or you get a family person, an adult family person can say, oh, I can vouch for the person. The person is 19 years old or the person is 20-year old. I mean, I have picture of kids in my community that if I tell you this boy is 23 years old, you'll not believe it. But he's 23. You can actually challenge that person registration if you're not 18. Okay? So we have those situations. So, I mean, so if you are a voter registrar, you will just err on the side of the person is this. It gets in the system, maybe somebody look at, but hey, I've seen different videos. People say, oh, look at the child registrar. People have created all those things. But for me, I would err on the side of NEC record. NEC say they form double registration, they form on my age, they have taken it out. For me, part of the concern I will have is these numbers that you see here, it means these numbers will change across the country. Okay? These numbers will change. Definitely by that. 27, 30, is that 36,000? They say?
For
The double registration or underage.
around
26,000.
Huh?
26,000.
26,000. So
Yeah.
if you distribute this, just hypothetically, if you distribute this across 15 counties, you can see the substantial number of numbers, will drop across the counties. I want to believe that. I mean,
so let's look at these numbers again for voter registration, and if you look at the highest being Monserrato, of course, for obvious reason, because even people from the USA joined them, right? So Monserrato 914,000. We have Bassa 159,000. Bong is 237,000. Mount Gibby 187,000. Nimba 308,000. That's second to Monserrato. And I'm looking for more numbers to see, new voters, the age range and all that. But those numbers, how, and we already saw part of that, right? As people kind of fight over Nimba County, they fight in Nimba. What else do you see based on those numbers that's going to happen in this election? The first one is
Nimba alone has 3 presidential candidates.
Yeah.
You got Dr. Wapo, Dr. George Gompu, Councillor Gonglo. Yeah, and I understand one more to come. That might be 4.
So how many presidential candidates?
At the moment, there are 3 presidential candidates.
And 1 vice presidential candidate.
Yeah.
Okay. So what does the number tell us for each of those counties, and where you think there's going to be more, elections, more campaigning? What would the numbers do? Or people are saying, hey, this person, this is their stronghold, and so there's no need. What you learn from the number, Dr. Do?
No, but I think people will vote. I mean, people will go to Nimba. Everybody will go to Nimba. Besides the 3 presidential candidates that Clay was talking about, you will have George Weah. He will make sure that nobody take Nimba from him. You have Bwakai's team, and Moniba may try to get some too. So Nimba would be really a battleground. I think that would be the biggest battleground in the country. And then you go to Monserrato after that, which is like the elephant meat. Everybody gets a cut out of it, depending how well you vote. I mean, how you campaign. If you pass those things, then Bon doesn't belong to anyone at this point. I'm not sure how the vice president is doing the current vice president is doing in Bon. Maggie B. Bassa is going to be a toss because you have LP divided.
But Dr. Du, how is Bong so different from Nimba, though? I mean, that there is too much fight in Nimba even compared to Bong. Is it that because... Yeah. I mean, I get the numbers part, right? But you should still have the same energy, but it's not like that. Is it that people are sitting Bong to somebody and then fighting hard in Nimba? How is Bong really different from Nimba?
I don't know. Maybe it has to do with the politics that Nimba got Prince Johnson, and some people want to get that thing from under him, get him out of that position and say, no, you're no longer our godfather. And in Bond, you have Madame Taylor, but she's just another politician. She's not really totally she's not 100% like that. Like Prince Johnson is in Nimba. So that's probably why. I mean, and then you also, Prince Moore, you have a lot of strong politicians in Bond County. Like Nimba, where everybody either goes to Prince Johnson or quietly do their thing on the side. But in Bond, you have a lot of, strong politicians that have shown, the capacity over the years. So probably they control their own game, I would say.
Mr. Gonglo, you're from both Nimba and Bong. Why is it?
From both Nimba and Bong, and I'm proud to come from both Nimba and Bong. But here is the thing, though. I think in Nimba, there are several ways you can look at it.
And the Prince Johnson factor
on one level, Prince Johnson has been a very catastrophic, deceitful politician.
But he's been a big factor, a big player in Nimba.
No way. He's eating money from almost all the politicians, and in some instances, he's outright cajoled them. So some of them may be out and say, you know what, I don't have to win. I'll throw money in there for people to get you. We need to get you out of our politics. That's one way to look at it, right? I'm not about an extension to that narrative is some of the guys, when I look at the list of the people President Weah is using in Nimba, who are the front view for President Weah in Nimba, these are all Prince Johnson former allies. They are all from the NDR. 98% from the NDR. Not from the party, not from anywhere. 98% from the NDR. So I've talked to all of them most of the time. The most prominent one, Garrison Yellow. I talked to Representative Gompu Kago. I talked to. So here are some of the things I hear. Then I hear the voices I'm hearing is that, look, no more us going standing to the door behind the kitchen of Senator Johnson. He used to take our ideas, go to President Salih, go to President Weah and eat money, and comes and say, they didn't give me money. I ain't get money for you. This time we are dealing with President Weah. We're sitting down on the table eating with him. When he wins, we are going to be doing the recommendation for Nimba. So they are emboldened by that fact that they could be the new emerging godfathers and not PYJ. So they are actually out to getting out of their way. Okay, so it's a serious battle. And because it's a battle of...
So actually the difference between Bong and Nimba is Prince Johnson.
It's Prince Johnson because of the way he has played all of activists and other politicians. So he's actually in people are after him to vomit some of what he's done to them. Yeah.
Thank you. Let me welcome
Garrison Yulu. Let me just end on there. Garrison Yulu, I listened to him. He was in Campley. He told a story just last weekend. I watched a video. Prince Johnson, of course, is on record. He won on radio. As long as he's senator, Garrison Yulu will never get a government appointment. Then he and President Weah fed apart. All of a sudden, President Weah appointed him as chairman of the Governance Commission. He said, bingo. I'm going to prove to you that you say I will never get a government job, even though the appointment is coming towards the end of the government. I will take it and I will campaign for this president to make him retain power, and we will put you out of the godfather role, and we will be the new godfather. So it's an interesting interplay of internal politics in Nimba, really. That's what made it exciting, really.
Thank you. Welcome, J. Victor Namwe, who's joining us. Victor, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Dennis, and thank you, guys. It's good to be back. Thank you also for the invite. Hello to listeners.
All right, let's look at the numbers here. We see the census number, our 2017 voters numbers, 2023 voter registration number, and we see the net change. What changed? So, Victor, looking at those numbers, I don't know if you're able to look at them earlier. What does that tell you about the wave? Where are we going to have more fight, and why? And how does this shift benefit this party or that party? Let's do the numbers.
Well, if you look at the numbers, I think the greatest increase is in Maserado, and then followed, I believe, by Bong, and then Nimba. Well, Margibi, and then Nimba. But I like to say this though, Dennis. Um, it is my understanding, as a matter of fact, I think you are aware that the CPP actually challenged the constitutionality of this current voter registration. They did file a case with the Supreme Court, and I think that happened early March and mid-April, I believe. The petition was
It was a census, right?
It was a
Yeah.
census. It was
Right,
the
not
first
voter
census.
registration.
no, the census and the registration process, because when the census results are returned, based on those results, the legislature then has to authorize the Elections Commission to
redistricting.
demarcate constituencies.
Right.
Yeah.
As you know, we currently have 73 constituencies.
And the CPP lost the case.
They lost the case.
Right.
But I'm just pointing out to you that from the get-go, this whole process is flawed. I am hearing that the current elections might not even be based on the current census and registration. We might have to go back to the 2017 registration and use those numbers, because I think there is a lot of confidence that has been lost in this current process. So I wanted to put that out there. Now, having said that,
Yeah, let's deal with that. When you say confidence are being lost in the current process, from whom?
yes,
Who's losing their confidence?
the
Because
idea is
I'm not hearing that since the voter registration numbers came out. I'm not hearing like the outcry I heard during the census. I'm not hearing that during at the end of the BVR.
yeah, well, because if the census that produced the voter registration process is flawed, don't we agree that the voter registration process that emanates out of that census will also be flawed? Because
When you say emanate out of the census, how?
okay, so according to the census, each of the counties were, given certain totals.
Right.
Okay.
And
Based
the
on these totals,
BVR is independent of that.
yes. But there is supposed to now be a new demarcation of constituencies, because there is a very high chance that we may now be going beyond the 73 constituencies based on the census report that was returned. That has not been done. So now, without that being done, the voter registration is going on. Are they just going on based on the 73 districts, or are they going to demarcate new districts? I think that question has not been answered. Now, coming back to the question that you asked, like I said, I was just throwing that out there. The greatest increase is in Maserati County, obviously. And then we have Bong, Margibi, Nimba, and I think River says as well, if I'm not mistaken here. So now, right, thank you for the graphics. So yes, so we have Maserati, greatest increase, followed by Margibi. And then we have Bong County and Nimba County. And then, of course, Cape Mount. And so, okay. So if you agree with me here, the candidates right now in the race, we can pretty much say that each candidate has a certain stronghold now, I believe. We think the former vice president has at least Lofa and then the Bapolu counties, maybe some part of Basso. I'm not sure of that. We can say the CPP now may be laying claim to Basso, maybe laying claim to Margibi, the Bassa land. We know the Basso people are found both, I mean, all over the place. The Basso.
And have we seen a consistent voting of the Bassa people that way?
Well,
Meaning Mongibi, Bassa, Riverside, and Monserrato going one way?
well, I mean, we can go back and look at the actual analytics. I mean,
Yeah, especially with the little councillor Brumskin.
I was
yes.
going to say Brumskin got what 53% the last time from Bassa, if I
And
remember.
because of that Basso vote, Brumskin came third in the 2017 elections.
But it's still 53%, not 70%, not 60.
No, I understand that. No, I agree
Yeah,
with
yeah.
you. But I'm
Mhm.
saying that was sufficient to
Yeah, it was sufficient for him to
But
propose him.
there is we don't have Councillor Brumskin anymore.
We don't.
And so how will one group even claim lay hold of that 53%?
Well, we have younger Councillor Bromskin. I know she's not her dad, but she is a Bromskin, and looking at what she has been done since, I mean, what she has done since the announcement was made, you can bet that she is going to take a good chunk of the Bassa vote.
Right. But
So
when Councillor Brumskin was there, he took everything. I mean, he took 53. Dr. Duke, you saying something?
No. I was going to ask Victor about Miss Councillor Brumskin. He said she did a lot since she did nomination. And what I wanted to know, what you mean on the radio or talk? What makes you think her profile has risen? Because
there has been a lot of groundwork that she has already started. She is reaching a lot of constituencies. I think the in addition to what you just mentioned, there have been visits here to this grouping, that grouping, and that grouping, and we also know that there is beginning now a spread out of the entire CPP leadership in the various parts of the country. But in order to answer the question you're asking is there is a lot of reaching out that is going on, a touching of bases, so to speak, to let the people know that look, we have been selected and we want to represent the Bassa people, and not just the Bassa people alone, but the Republic of Liberia.
so Bassa, young people, women, where do you think she's strong?
Well, I think she straddles a lot of demographics. With the young people, she's young, so the young people, I believe they will find something in her. The women, I believe they will find something in her. The professionals, I believe they will find something in her. So, and then before you even add the Bassa limb, so I think she is, she her reach is very, very far and wide. We already begin to see that fruits are already being born.
Dennis, just for the sake of our listening public, I want to take Victor back to the earlier statement he made on the Supreme Court case by the CPP, because if you have the verdict of the Supreme Court, you probably can put on the screen. But I think the case that the CPP filed, that case itself, on the merits of it, I haven't read the Supreme Court opinion, but I know the Supreme Court denied the motion. And by precedent, knowing what I know in election matter, I think the injury has not occurred, and they were claiming injury basically. I think that's why, in my judgment, Supreme Court probably denied that motion, because even in the United States, after census, you can have demarcation done, and it's not normally done before voter registration, because here in the US we have continuous voter registration. You can register even if it's not election year, you can register. So in Liberia, we already have 73 constituencies, right? So registration can take place in those 73 constituencies. And when the legislature set a threshold, which by constitution is due after every census count, when they set a threshold, you can then do the constituency demarcation. All it means is you announce a X number of administrative districts, or I would say maybe a chieftain will vote in this area. This will be now their electoral district. So because there's a difference between electoral district, which is just for the purpose of election. It's not really the administrative structure of the state, of the county. So, and CPP was claiming that by not doing that process first, and they were doing registration, was unconstitutional. Yes, the constitution say voter registration shall take place in what constituency.
Correct.
We have existing constituency,
All
which
right.
is the 3 constituency. We are not yet to know when the legislature will set the threshold. And when they set the threshold, it's a totally different technical process that is not presided by over by the legislature, rather by different government agencies like NEC, the Ministry of Internal
Right.
Affairs,
Thank-
and I think legislature, they get into that. You know,
Thank you. Thank you. I don't want to get into that constitutional argument for a long time. But let me bring you back. One more thing I wanted to talk about here is county of origin, right? And this thing come up every election. Constitution says no 2 candidates, meaning the president, the vice president, shall come from the same county. Before I go on, does anyone know what that means to come from a county?
Well, it simply means that you don't want the whole government in
No, I
one
mean,
county.
what does it mean? This Victor Nabwe comes from Grand Crew County or Maryland County. What does that mean? Does it mean your ethnic group? Does it mean where you were born? Does it mean where your father come from? Does it mean where you have residency?
No, I mean, the way I understand it, what it means is you can't have the president, the vice president coming from, say, Maryland County. That's how I understand it.
How do you come from Maryland? That's my question.
How do you come from Maryland?
Yes.
How you qualify as Marylander?
Yes.
By living there, or just by being like, say, oh, your name is coming, so your grandparents were in Maryland, so you're from Maryland, or you just happen to live there for a while, and then you say, now I'm a Marylander. What gives you political legitimacy in those cases? I think okay, go ahead.
I think there are, sorry, Doug.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, yeah, the Constitution spells out what is called domicile. You must be a resident in a particular area for X number of years, then you become a resident of that area. So if I have been residing in Maryland County, or if I were born in Maryland for 40 years or whatever, I believe I am a Marylander because, one, my parents have been domiciled in Maryland County. And I was born a Grable man. That makes me a Marylander. I don't know if there's any other definition.
Right, and that's why. So right now, we have, and we started with President Weah, right?
Right.
Born. Some say Nimba, but born and raised in Montserrado. He was senator for Montserrado. Now we say President Weah come from Grand Crew, right? I don't know if that's different, if that's constitutionally different. We also see. I don't believe he has lived in Grand Crew for any length of time. If he did, maybe for a year or so. I don't know. Let's take Mr. Cummings, for instance. We hear that Mr. Cummings comes from Maryland. What does that mean? He was born in Point Four, Montserrado County. I believe he lived in Montserrado. I believe he has not lived in Maryland. Does he come from Maryland?
no,
Well, in Liberia, right? You are your father's child, right? If Mr. Cummings' parents came from Maryland County, even though he may have grown up in Monrovia, but that makes him a Marylander.
Right.
I mean, we're seeing that for the VP vice presidential candidate for Ambassador Boakai. I think the argument is that Senator Kuhn, though he is from the Southeast, but he grew up in Nimba, and he considers himself a resident of Nimba, but his parents are from the Southeast.
His father.
Yes.
His mother is from Nimba.
So by that definition, he is a Southeasterner. So I think that was going to say something.
Isn't it?
Right, and that's the problem, right? So let's say for Mr. Cummings,
right?
Will Mr. Cummings get his vice president from Maryland or from Montserrado? Because I don't know how you're going to prove that, and I want all you guys to help. How can you prove that I'm from this county? if you don't even have residency there.
Dennis,
So when the Constitution say no two persons or the VP and the president should come from the same county, does it mean their ethnic group or where they were born or where they have residency?
Dennis, I think the Constitution is very clear. I think Victor started to talk about it earlier on the question of the criteria for president and vice president qualification is there. Okay, so if you come even to the senator and the representative, that want to even talk about the domicile issue and all of you. When you apply, where are your property registered? If you say, let's take just a typical case for a senator or a representative. Say if you're running in District 3 in Maryland, but you have all your property that you pay taxes on, maybe in Maserati, but you claim residency in District 3 in Maryland. Is that a problem constitutionally? Because you should have property possession that meet certain, that you must have your tax clearances on those, right? So what does it mean? So for me, my understanding, I don't think it's any different from what most of you have said. The Constitution grants citizenship. The Constitution does not say where you should live in Liberia. When the Constitution was written, probably there were 9 counties or maybe less. Okay? So it didn't grant citizenship.
1986, there were
No.
there were
13. I think there were 13.
There were 13 counties or whatever. But even the one before it, because some of the things we see in the current.
So my problem. So when the Constitution says you shouldn't come from the same county.
That's all.
You don't get a definition of that county is residency, right?
Yeah, it's residency. It's not by job or by birth.
No,
Right.
I think it goes beyond residency. I
No,
mean,
that's what.
come on,
No, that's
a lot
why.
of us here grew up in Monrovia, but we come from our original counties, our counties of birth, your counties where your parents originated from.
Is that the definition according to the Constitution?
That is.
No.
No.
What does the Constitution say?
You know, Constitution just grants citizenship to Liberian,
Right.
not based on county status. No.
So when you are running for senator, representative, and you are running for a particular district, right? You should come from that district.
The Constitution requires you to be resident in that district for X number of times.
And I'm using that same argument for presidency because
but that's different.
Because coming from a county should not be based on where your parents' ethnic group.
Yeah, it is residency.
So now, and what I'm laying out here is, can the residency, can any of these presidential candidates be challenged? Like take, and I'm using Mr. Kwame, for example.
When you are a presidential candidate and you apply, you're not applying and say, I'm coming from Bon County, that one. No, you're applying as a Liberian.
As a Liberian.
Right.
You are a global Liberian citizen, correct?
Domicile apply also to the presidency and vice presidential candidate. Because, mind you, there is a Supreme Court opinion that I'm not going to call a presidential candidate name on this platform, but there is a Supreme Court opinion that if we go deep into it, some presidential candidate will not qualify. That 10 years residency clause was interpreted by the Johnny Lewis bench. I think it was Councilor Bronskin or some group of lawyers filed that case. They interpreted clearly as...
Wasn't that, what's his name? Vanishment for Ellen?
No, the vanishment for Ellen was on the
On the TRC thing.
So my problem.
So there's a Supreme Court opinion on that 10-year residency. We're not going to go into that because I don't intend to expose any opposition leader here. But I can tell you the constitutional meaning of that is residency, not because they know to contest for president, vice president, said any of the letter of you must be a citizen.
Right. Okay? No, but what I mean, because the Constitution specifies that you should not come, you and your vice president should not come from the same county. So that brings residency.
It means residency.
So if it means residency, does Mr. Kwame have residency in Maryland, for instance, if we agree that he comes from Maryland?
I think it's more. I think it's more about perception and identity, because I think all these politicians who want to run for president kind of, transcend that ethnic, regional, thing, but they're national people. They're, like at the level of the nation. So I think it's mostly about, how you identify with that county, and and also the perception that you give to people that you are from that county. Like, look at Mosaic County Senator Darius Dillon.
Listen,
yeah,
Dennis, and let me say this. As a Liberian, all of us here are. A Grable man cannot tell you I come from Lofa. That's not possible.
And they should.
So, yes. So
and our perception and what we say in the street is not law, it's not legal, right?
Right.
So and the way I'm driving this is what would now stop, let's say if Mr. Cummings was to pick his vice president from Maserati. Right? And that is challenged in court and say, hey, you are from Maserati because this is where your residence is.
I don't see the business for that challenge.
Why?
Because Mr. Cummings resides in Monrovia, Maserati, but he is not originally from Maserati.
And how do we prove that?
Born in Maserati. You was not born in Maryland.
How do we prove that by law? That this is the country I come from?
Okay, I say it again. When you are born to your parents who come from River G, you may have been born in Nimba, but you originate from River G. You may be resident in Nimba, but your navel strings are tied to River G. Never mind that you were not born in River G, but your parents, your parents' origin becomes your.
And what makes that your parents' origin? Because they were born there, or because of what?
Because
maybe we never think about it, right? So, but that's something that we need to consider.
I guess.
Yeah, I think people just by ethnic affiliation, we just say, okay, he got to be from Granger. His crew, he's from Sino, or so that kind of identity that the state was created through with ethnicity in mind. And that gives you, so when people say I'm from this place, except for Cummings is not probably Grable, it's not cool, but he's from Maryland.
So Dennis, I look at this case. Let's forget about the presidency. Representative Evelyn Snow was representative of District 6 in Maserati.
Correct.
And when he got land in Bombay and started investing on that land in Bombay, and he said, "Oh, I'm going to go to Bombay and run to be representative." Do you know it was challenged in court?
Right, but the Constitution,
the Supreme Court said he was domiciled there.
Yes.
Yeah. And they allowed him to run while sitting representative of Maserati. So you are having two residents for that matter. In the coming election, Thomas Fallard is incumbent representative of District 5 or District Y. He's running in Lofa. In Foya. I think in District 3 or so in Foya, in Lofa, right?
Right.
He is incumbent. He's taking advantage of the existing Supreme Court opinion on every case.
To stretch that argument, Thomas Fallard can afford to live in Monrovia and run in Lofa. He cannot afford to live in Monrovia and run in Maryland, for instance. Why? Because his parents are not from Maryland. His parents are from what? Lofa.
And you come back to this from.
What makes you parents are not from Bombay?
I'm sorry?
Snow parents, as I understand, they are not from Bombay. He went to CA Junior High School. It was Bombay was a company area. His parents worked there. So that's it. Not that they're from Bombay.
So the whole idea of coming from a county, if you claim the parents are from Lofa, and you are saying they are born there. So if they are born there, so it means you can come from a county if you are born in that county. So you see where the argument going?
Or you could be, your grandparents came from there and then you're from there.
Right. So how far back can we go to trace a country of origin? The
Well,
only thing that we can do is domicile.
Domicile, I think that would be the residence, but I think we have to think about the counties were set in somehow around ethnic groups. So therefore, every county, every ethnic group sort of identify with one county, and the people who come from those areas no matter how long they've been gone, they always say, "I'm from that part of the country." They speak the language, they part of the culture, and no matter where they are, even they're in Monrovia, they're probably part of the group that come from that town. They come to America. They're part of the Nimba in America. Nimba people in America.
Even Gonglo children born here are claiming Nimba.
Huh?
I said even Gonglo children born here are claiming Nimba.
Yeah, they claim it because the ethnic identity is attached to Nimba. So no matter how far they go, like us, we will always be African. I don't care how long we stay here. I'll say, yeah, we're African.
So how is the country of origin going to impact the election? Is that why we have voter tracking? Is it based on residency? Is it based on your ethnicity or based on your language?
No, Dennis, you are stressing this too far.
I'd like to stretch things.
Voter tracking is pure corruption. It's because of the increased corruption in public space,
You can say, right? Because I know people that in Victor will come from Sino. So time for election, they want to go and register in Sino. People from Nimba, a lot of them don't register in Nimba. And sometimes when they want to go back, they want the process to be facilitated. So if you have an interest in Gongano registering in Gompa, then you help him go there. You see, so how is that always corruption?
No, Dennis. So here is the thing. So it's probably difficult for us to determine probably here, but here is what we know. That in most instances, those who engage in voter tracking, there is a financial benefit that they tend to reap. So they get transported, not free of charge. They give them some money. Oh, what would I eat when I go there? They give them something to eat when they're there. And when they register, they show their card to go by to vote. On that fateful day to go by, they get some financial inducement in order to go by to that county to vote. That's why usually when there is a runoff election, less number of people vote because those who were struck, there is no longer motivation to go back.
But it's not necessarily corruption, right? You come from Nimba, you live with.
There are two types of people who are trucked.
Right.
There are those people who we're coming back into point of origin. There are those people who originated from that locale who are probably migrant workers because they're going after, gold mining or whatever it is. They live in other parts, maybe in an adjacent county. So a candidate running in this district would then go and bring those people back to register them and let them vote here. That's one. But then there are also other people who do not have absolutely any connection with the particular district who are brought in by candidates, and so that they can increase their favorable vote at the polls. So those are the two kinds of people. Now, those who were originally from that area, who are being brought back there, you can understand that their interest is in developing the place. So they have a vested interest in the outcome of the elections. Whereas
how do we determine those people? How do we determine who is who now?
Dennis, I agree. I understand the explanation Victor is giving, but I think NEC has spoken on this very clearly, that voter tracking is a violation of the law, of the election law. They've spoken on that. Whether it is somebody coming from Bon County, they speak Pele, they come from Kokoya district and they want to go to Kokoya to vote, and they have been. Why they didn't go to a businessman to transport them? Why they go to a politician?
No, but Mr. Bungalow,
why did you go to ordinary citizen? Why am no politician that is going to be on the ballot?
Because politicians have the interest of going, right? Where demand meets supply, where the need meets.
So this is where the suspicion is, that whether it is a citizen, whether a group of citizens from the country trying to go, the fact that they are not going to a businessman or their district organization and say, let's collect money outside and go back to register, but they are going to a particular candidate. Mind you, there's not one candidate in our race, right?
Yeah, Mr. Gonglo, let's set the basis, right?
So it's corruption. It's corruption.
You are in Nimba.
Let me ask you a question.
The reason you went to Monrovia is to go to school, you are being glad, right?
Yeah.
So now, if you want to go back to your county to vote and you don't have the means, is going there the problem? Or if somebody else is facilitating this, it means this is corruption?
Well, if yes, so if I'm going there, I mean, unfortunately, I'm the wrong example in this.
Right.
I've always, I've most instances, I've always voted throughout the election. I've never voted anywhere other than my home. Okay, when I'm in Monrovia, I always go back, but I always.
Right. But you can afford it. Other people can't afford it.
So that's it. But again, and this is something that Dennis, we can't pretend about. We all know.
No, but how do
And
you
no
determine
has
that?
voted anybody who is not going, who they don't believe that at the end of the day is going to vote for them.
Okay.
So they are trying to actually influence vote in a particular constituency by people who are considered stranger because they are not usual resident in that constituency. They are not going there to determine the outcome to influence the outcome of the particular electoral process, and they return to Monrovia and live in places where they didn't.
But how different is that from you who pay your own way to go there? How is that different?
Yeah, but then let's not forget, this is the reasons for the census, right? You go in a locale, you count the people, and you report them. After the census, if a person left that area and traveled somewhere else, I think they reserve the right to return there and register there to vote. If they don't have the means and the candidate can afford to do that, then they should bring them back. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. What I have a problem with is those people who have absolutely no ties to the community, who are brought in for the purpose of financial, benefits. Obviously, they'll care nothing about whether this candidate is going to seek the interest of this district or not. When they win, I think that's where the problem comes from.
And you are correct. Hold on, Mr. Gonglo. So how do we determine who is who? What is?
I wanted to ask Gonglo also. Suppose you live in Monrovia as a teacher, and then let's say you're running for position in Nimba for the house, and you're a member of a club, Nimba club from that area in Monrovia. You meet it regularly, you talk. People say, "Yeah, we want to vote for you, but we don't have means to get to Nimba."
Yeah.
But you know they're from Nimba. Wouldn't you take them?
If I do so, Dr. Do, that's corruption.
Why? Why is it corruption?
No, I don't think so. Look, Elvis mentioned something here in the chat, which I agree with.
If you give me time, to explain.
Okay, go ahead.
In a particular process, voters hold those they elect accountable when something goes wrong.
Correct.
So let's, just for argument's sake, I agree that you have 10,000 registered voters, maybe 12,000 registered voters in the constituency, right? And if you get 5,000 come from outside who don't live there, they are from there, but they are not usual residents. They've left the district for
just like you who teaching to Tadmaha and going back
so if they go back there to influence the election result for a particular candidate, and that candidate win and they go by, that candidate knows where these people came from. They live in Monrovia. He will be taking care of them, helping them, and will have no respect, no responsibility to the
But
district.
that's a moral.
At the end of
let me say this quickly.
To go there
let me say this quickly. And Elvis mentioned this in the chat. In this country, we all know they have the GOTV, the Get Out the Vote campaign. And I think it's very similar to what we are talking about, that candidates would devote a sizable amount of resources to just getting out the vote. GOTV, I think they call it here. In our instance, we have the trucking, but I believe it's very, very similar to that. On election day, you want to make sure your people get out to vote.
Two different
people here who do
vote,
and people here who babysit. They do all kinds of stuff.
Mr. Gonglo, that's the same thing. But let me throw in the last one.
Transporting the person to go vote, are they the same? Is that the argument?
Mr. Gonglo, you yourself, because you can afford to go back to Nimba to vote, but other people can't
afford. The reason why I do?
No.
The reason why I do is because I believe that my people will need voters.
Right, and that's the same reason other people do. but you can afford to go, others cannot. So they ask for help.
Correct.
And if you want to ask for help, are you going to go to somebody who have no interest in NIMA whatsoever? You're going to go to
There are a lot
somebody.
of us who live here on election day. You might have maybe one of the candidates might charter a plane and say, you know what, all of you register in Philadelphia and put you on a plane, come home to vote.
Probably comments will do.
maybe say I won't come close, do.
All right, let's look at the last one, which
But
is
it's
vote buying.
tricky, though.
Vote,
Okay.
and that goes in line with what we know today in Liberia as buying votes. If we look at a map, can you tell from this map where if vote buying is going to take place anywhere? Mainly maybe because of the high number, low number. Is vote buying actually happening, or is just perception? And how do we see it in these elections looking at the numbers?
I'm not sure whether it is influenced by the map as much as I think it is influenced by the desire for some kind of benefit. I understand some of the people are selling their voter registration cards for as little as $20, right? So if we look at it that way, I think that there will be a lot of it in Monserrato, I would think, where you have a very high concentration of people who are really distressed. But that could also be true on the leeward side, where there is not much, So I guess it's very difficult to say this is where it will be more prevalent than in that area. But I can say I suspect it will be very high in the Monserrato area, especially in the Monrovia area.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Goodness, how earlier he would say here that cheating on election, cheating does not start on the day of election.
No.
It starts way before sometime before the process begins, right? How is facilitating someone from point A to point B? You giving them money to go. How is not an equivalent of vote buying? You are influencing them how they will vote. That's what you're doing, Dennis. Let's Google. Let's look at
but then if you would make the argument, then let's say people should not even campaign, because then you say you'll be influencing the people to vote.
No.
I mean, that's what the whole thing is about. You got to appeal to the people that want to vote for you.
No, if you trucking people, whether they are resident from that district, from your town, and you trucking them from one point to another, and you truck them on the day of voting to go there, and telling them vote for me, you are influencing them, right? Because
that's what campaign is. That's what Victor is saying. You influence people to vote for you.
And maybe you Google the definition of vote buying and put it on the screen. Let's read.
But what is wrong is me going in the voting booth and say, "Kilo, put your finger here and vote." That is wrong. But I can tell you, I can go to your house and say, on election day, I can come to your house and say, "My man, come and take a ride with me. Let's go so you can vote." I don't see anything wrong with that.
People provide free transportation.
Yes.
Yeah, they provide buses. So the buses pick people up to go vote and then bring them back. So you're not giving them cash, but the fact that you're transporting them, you are saving them money. No, you're saving them money, probably $20 to go and come back. If they have to take Uber to go vote.
Guys, let's be careful here. In the United States, there are two-party system, Democratic Party and Republican Party. So, Democratic stronghold. In fact, before election, when there's canvassing, the people who come around to register, they go around and taking down names, contact number of people.
Yes.
Okay, you're ready. They already look in the system. These are registered Democrats, and they believe
not necessarily. You can still have swing voters that you independent that you win.
Dennis, you can't. It doesn't mean that when they take you to the pool, they're going to tell you how to vote. But they believe you are a registered Democrat, and that's all they know. And they err on the side of caution that, look, once a Democrat, we can transport this person, we can call them, remind them, go vote. However you vote, we okay. Because almost more than 90% of the time, you Democrat will vote Democrat, Republican will vote Republican. That's just it, right? If you are registered independent, they don't care to influence you to go to the pool. I'm a registered independent. No one has called me and ask me to go vote. No.
Yeah, let's talk about vote buying now. You are saying that is vote buying.
No. So no, what I'm saying in the United States, let us not compare what happened here in the US with what happens in Liberia. Because in the US, nobody is taking physical cash, and some
but Gongolo, I think we need to, not put ourselves so high up or so down that we lose track of the fact that democracy is about buying votes. How you do it, it's depend on the economic situation you people live in. No, in the US, people don't need handout. They don't need $5, $6 to go vote. But they would like to see, you buy vote by telling people come up and we have free drink today and then we listen to you because they will.
Hold on, like Mr. Gonglo, poke barrel spending. That's buying vote.
No, but Dr. Tu said democracy is about buying vote. I don't know if you can explain that. I don't quite understand.
Democracy is about buying vote because you influence people to vote for your ideas, and you buy. That's what I'm trying to put this in a very general term. Buy meaning you're trying to acquire things from people, and then how do you do it? You speak to them, you show them things, you show them pictures, you take them to places and tell them we can do this, and that's how you buy their vote. You buy their vote from the people.
Well,
and how you buy it depends on the social economic condition where you live.
I think you are
saying the context. I'm talking about the context. The context you're in. Your context in Liberia is where people are deprived, they're hungry, they need $2-3. In the US, they don't need $2-3. But if you say, oh yeah, we have a convention today at this place, we have 25 buses, you go, you save $25, but by way, get on the bus. That money you save is buying.
No, you say convention, that's for people who
I'm talking about a general event, any event. They say, we have this event, like today we have, the governor's meeting with the, small business community, and they're calling people to come up, but mostly Democrats. But you do that, what they're doing, he's trying to sell his next election. So I think, we're trying to too much into ourselves so much and to grab ourselves put ourselves in the corner so much and say, oh no, you can't do this, you can't do that. No, they do it. What is pork in the US economy? When they call pork at the Congress, we know what it is. I vote, but you got to build that bridge in my county. I vote, but you got to finish that highway.
No, but Dr. Duke, let's be honest here. In Liberia,
Mr. Gonglo, I don't want to stay long on this too much so we can bring in
No, but on the question
hold on, Mr. Gonglo. Hold on.
Yes.
I mean, we can't put ourselves down all the time. They do worse here, right? What is lobbying?
I'm not saying they don't do worse here.
Bribing, lobbying is just bribing people to get your way through.
For example, if you go to North Dakota, you see so many federal government investment in military invention, the drone, the different aircraft. You see it there because you have people who say, okay, we'll do that, but it's not for personal gain. Do it for my state. I want to create job. You go to Georgia. There was a congressman, I forgot his name, who got the federal government to do so much investment in Georgia, in Atlanta. Okay,
right.
That's why he wanted for his states in return to vote on a particular bill. So
that's what people want from their
country. For example, Jeremiah Kuhn, he took $1 million according to Santel report and put it to his private clinic. Okay, he allocated to himself. That's not for NIMBA. He's personally benefiting. Okay.
He will say the clinic serve NIMBA, right?
Yeah. Well, but he gets money because people pay money. It's not free.
But okay, no, I'm saying that's you're talking about that case, but I'm talking about in general.
You want me to cite some more? I can cite
No. Yeah, I don't know about the case. I'm just saying.
But let me ask this.
Okay, gentlemen, I want to announce the number so we can have some calls. I don't want us to take this to 2 hours. If you want to join the conversation, please call 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#. Call that number. Let's discuss quickly. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we will get some callers on the line.
Myself wondering what did happen to the last 10. I ran away with my life, fast forward, never turn back again. It's kind of funny that the more we pass time, the more we need to set the rewind. And 19 was the year I had to leave you, but now I'm seeing all the signs. Is this really happening? I can't believe it's true. I'm just as surprised as you. Is this really happening? I can't.
Welcome back to Focus on Liberia. This is Tough Talking Thursday, and we are talking about some major issues in the 2023 election. We discuss the voter registration, census, and vote buying, or any form of voters influencing them in a negative way. At this time, let's hear from our callers here. The first caller is Mr. Evans Morris. Evans, you're live. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. John, and hello to your panelists. I think the discussion is a good one tonight. Quickly, I wanted to make one or two observations from the numbers that I saw. You know, for me, my interpretation of that number is it spells doom for the CDC, and I'm a sympathizer of President Weah. The reason I say that is because, you know, census is something that's almost mandatory for the country, so you have to pretty much count people whether they want to be counted or not. Whereas voter registration is, you know, it's not compulsory. It's something that is, you know, optional, so to speak. You can choose to vote or not. So looking at the southeastern of a place like Brangida, for example, which I think in a census has 213,000 people, but then in a voter registration has something a little over 64,000 people. You know, again, based on the population, maybe foreigners and people on the age and whatnot, but still, that's a very low voter registration relative to the population. And a lot of that is, you know, in the southeastern counties. So people who may have voter apathy, who are just kind of, you know, disillusioned by the government, may feel like they don't need to vote because the last time they gave the government their vote, you know, much hasn't changed in their life. So a lot of people tend to maybe, you know, refrain from registering to vote. So that may be a bad thing for the CDC. And I think overall it's kind of that trend, because you don't really see a lot of voter registration, even in places like Limba or even Monserrate, where you think the population, most people think the population have ballooned over the last 10 or so years relative to their population size. But, you know, there hasn't been a big boom in voter registration. So a lot of people may abstain from these elections, and that may be, you know, not in the favor of the incumbent, because people who really want to see change will do everything necessary to see it. And those who are, you know, kind of on the government side, you know, they will go out and vote. But if the numbers are relatively the same in that area, it just means that, you know, less people are enthused to vote. More people may stay home in those locations. So I don't know if you guys seen a similar trend, but that was just my observation. And in terms of voter trucking, Mr. Gungo, I think I have to respectfully disagree with you on this one, because the reality is we see it here in the United States, and I think somebody made the clarification that those people who are, you know, being trucked or bused to go vote, you know, they are registered in those districts or in those, you know, at those precincts. So, for example, an elderly black lady who was on welfare or Medicaid, who don't have a car and maybe don't have the kids living at home, you know, one of the Democratic foot soldiers would go over there and rent a bus for 400 of those elderly people from maybe the nursing home and other, you know, elderly living facilities to go vote. And in my opinion, that's to help, you know, that's helping them to enfranchise, to vote, to exercise the franchise to vote. I don't think that's a bad thing, but Mr. Bungle, maybe you see it in a different way. As long as they're not paying them anything in terms of money or anything else to entice them to vote, I don't think it's illegal or should be considered something that's wrong. I will leave it there. Thank you for taking my call, Mr. John.
Thank you, Elvis. All right. So, any response?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to quickly add, and I think I referenced Elvis when he wrote that in the chat. Coming back to here in the States here, we honestly we do have the get out the vote, but what is not allowed here is to vote across state line. I think this is where this whole restriction the trucking, like I keep saying. If you brought someone into the community, you truck someone here who has absolutely no connection to the community, I think that is wrong, because then they will not hold your feet to the fire because they really don't care about the community. But if you originate from here and for some reason you find yourself residing somewhere else, and you need assistance getting to the voting booth, I think you should be helped. It's perfectly normal.
No, it happened a lot in DC because there are a lot of transients in DC, people who come from other states to work, government, military, all of Congress. Election, they go home, and so a lot of times it's not even hitting. Parties pay for them. Say, are you going to vote? Are you bringing your people? All of that, they do that. So I think in our case, the fact that we use money, cash, people see it as bad thing. But I'm saying vote buying is vote buying. Selling vote is selling votes. No matter how you do it. The worst case that we have in Liberia probably is buying a voter registration card from people to destroy them so that they will not take part in the vote. That is condemnable. I don't think they do that in the US. But to say we're going to facilitate your way to get to votes, there's nothing wrong with it. I don't think they can go against that.
Thank you.
I think we're missing the point. Let me just comment on Elvis' point. I don't agree with Elvis, even though I don't want Georgia to win, when he said based on the voter registration numbers, the census, you try to probably establish a correlation between the census number and the vote and the registered voter, which there is none. Okay, to say even the low, I mean, believe there is low registration, so expel John for the incumbent. No, because some of the things I've seen in online and in some of the countries, it doesn't mean the government of the day is not going to be competitive. They are going to be competitive. Okay, so Liberia is Liberia, and voters in Liberia are known for making strange decisions.
What do you mean? The voters have never made any strange decision. They're very being very rational.
Okay. They are known for making from that perspective rational decision.
Yeah, it's rational.
That perspective, not from mine. Okay. So, but the other thing I wanted to add is, you see, we're talking about this, but in this country, if I go to DC to work, I'm using Pennsylvania driver license. Use a driver license or the state ID, not your employer ID. It has to be government issue ID. If you're working for the government, fine. But you use largely your driver license or your state ID for voter registration. So most people are registered in some state, and this is this is my resident.
Right. And when we have those registrations, I don't want to belabor that point.
So people go out to work, time for voting to come here. And here, no voting is also allowed because we got a military people who vote overseas.
In Liberia, we don't have driver license. A lot of people don't have those kind of things.
Started the process. I'm one of the very few people who did. They call it the national registry, right? If you go there, I went through that process. They will take your voter card and the address where you voted is where they will capture into that national registry. I think Tia Nangwe is here. They will capture into that registry. And now they will say that's the place you vote.
It was.
But let's get on next segment now, which is the Tabata of the week, because we so that we can close in time. Somebody told me, say, why you always have Tabata? I mean, only bad things happening. You should have something also good too that is happening. But for now, let's do the Tabata of the week. And Victor, let me start with you. What's your Tabata of the week?
Yeah, thank you, Dennis. I know a lot of concerns have been raised about Mr. Musa Hassan ability, his business practices. A lot of people, have questions. But I think what is happening to him right now really is a complete tabata. I believe the government through the LRA are alleging that it's indebted to the government. That is normal. It's okay. Everybody owes everybody. It's not illegal. Now, to the extent that they want to shut him down, then you must have a reason. And there seems not to be a specific figure that they said he owes the government for which they want to shut him down. For me, that is complete tabata.
Join us tomorrow at 8 for Friday night debate. JNB, the Unity Party, Joseph Newman Boaka is getting endorsed left and right. I learned first it was Boto Kane, Magdala Cooper. We have some legislators. Now a group calling itself Southeastern Alliance to elect for George Weah re-election. That group has endorsed Joseph Newman Boaka. We're going to talk about that on our Friday night debate. Also, Mayor Koji is threatening some government ministers. Say you can't be with the government and go in bed with legislators, else something is going to happen. U.S. Ambassador McCarthy strikes again. Bapolu citizens are protesting for their 53.5 carats of diamond, and it was not pretty. Join us tomorrow at 8 for Friday night debate, where you don't want to miss it. I'll be there. Dr. Drew, what's your Tabata of the week?
Victor took my Tabata because I was going to talk about that. But anyway, then I'll do one in Senegal. I'm going back to West Africa again, like I did last week. Senegal, 29 young people were killed over the weekend because Macky Sall, as all the Francophone countries do now, by changing one line in the constitution, says we have a new constitution, so therefore I can run again. And this happened in that's what happened in Cote d'Ivoire. 120 people died. Two Alassane can run for a third term. Condé did the same thing in the Ebola, went and concocted some kind of referendum and then said, yes, there's a new constitution. And this thing was in the French constitution back in 1945 when De Gaulle became president. He was military and he was new. So they gave him all the powers. Over the years, the French parliament took those powers, cut into those powers. But in Africa, they kept strengthening them. So if you look at the Francophone countries in West Africa, they are the worst case of democracy. Benin, every opposition member is either in jail or exiled. Senegal, you know what the opposition leader accused of? Corrupting the youth. Have you ever heard that? To put somebody in prison for corrupting the youth? That's the official official, how you say it? He was condemned for corrupting the youth. 29 people died, and Macky Sall is in France drinking champagne with French people who, of course, love him. So, and these guys are 9 out of 15 in ECOWAS. That's why ECOWAS don't work, because they control everything, and as long as they get along with France, they're okay. So that's a big tabata, but it really affects the whole sub-region. If you look at 9 Francophone countries, not a single democracy. 9.
Complete tabata. Mr. Gonglo, what's your tabata of the week?
My tabata is how soon people forget. In 2017, 19 senators endorsed Ambassador Boaka. And they're not just endorsing. Each of them contributed $1 million Liberian dollar. That was $19 million Liberian dollar. Then another more than 40 representatives endorsed Ambassador Boaka. Almost, you can say, majority of the legislature did endorse him. He had the largest rally that I've seen in my lifetime in Liberia at 8 years. In fact, that rally he broke down in tears that he said he never saw Liberian laughing like that. At the end of the day, what happened? He lost. Now I see another Suro endorsement. And people soon forget that this time the endorsement are different endorsement from 2017. For me, it's a complete tabata.
Thank you. And Elvis is still on the line. He wants to say his tabata before going. Elvis, go ahead.
Oh, Mr. John, thank you for being so kind. I have to say this. You know, sometimes they say you don't know how things are until it happens to you. What kind of country we have called Liberia? Mr. John, I'm putting a trip to Liberia soon. I'm running out of some of my documents. All of the consulates that can help me, none of them are open. Their phone numbers are off the hook. I already paid for my thing on the application, everything. I called the Minnesota consulate. They said they already closed it down. They said I'm gonna go to do it in Washington. I called Washington. Our main embassy, not even consulate, but embassy, it's shut down. The phone is not even ringing. Can you imagine that? The whole country, the phone is not even ringing. I called those people 2 days in a row. No phone number will pick up. And that's the official phone number. I called the one in Chicago. The phone is not even ringing in Chicago. What kind of country we have that none of our consulates are operational? I don't understand that. President, we are in this government has let us down, especially those of us in the diaspora. Right now, we are in like a free fall. I already paid the money. I got the receipt and everything, but I can't get nobody to service me. It's embarrassing. I want to say on the platform because it's like I can't write all the frustrations in the comment section, but I have to say this. I'm a sympathizer of this government, but it's completely embarrassing as an entire country that none of our consulate seems to be operational. That's my top of the whole month. I would say that the whole month.
So maybe I can help you. I don't know. Maybe if you're not in DC, I know people at the embassy. I can call somebody to if you're still trying to get it.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Duke. My tabata is the names this year, right? I see that Finabondo and Yomble Kanga kind of battling over Rescue Mother. Finabondo said she earned the name Rescue Mother because she's having goodwill towards people. She's helping the poor. So the name Rescue Mother comes from God. It's not a title that people put on you. So she is the Rescue Mother. I also saw the name Fixer, that in last election it was used by Euro. Say Papa Euro will fix it. So he was the fixer. This year, Mr. Cummings is the fixer. But the good thing is, they said nobody has copyright to this name. I think this is complete tabata. Let people find other names. Let people be a little creative.
Or just use their own names.
Yeah.
As a candidate, that's nothing better than your name.
If you take on the name and you're not using it, then what's wrong with somebody taking it? You're not running right now in the current election. Finabodo is not running. So I don't see what her claim is to this.
But this thing, like,
who are running to either fix
or because I think there is some music to that. Papa Euro will fix it. I remember that music. Yeah. There's some music, if there's a song to that, it can be some Papa Euro will fix it. No, I remember that.
At least find a synonym.
You know, our politics extend to everything. You have people now say the fixer, this and that. Like you say, people will call and say District 3. I don't know what District 3 is. I know where Cinco is. I know where Mamba Point is. But when you say District 4, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, people call now. Everybody say, they don't call the place they live. They say District 4, District 5. Anyway, it's part of the name changing thing. Everything is politicized.
Yeah.
And that's complete tabata.
I think the candidates should use their names. Political is more correct.
In fairness, they should use their name. Because that's why we're not going to be inaugurating as fixer or as integrity.
No, gentlemen, don't do that. Don't do that. Look, electioneering is about rallying the people. Don't do that. I mean,
Donald Trump, your own name.
Yeah, Donald Trump had mega. No, I hear you say use your own name. Donald Trump had mega country. Obama had what? Yes, we can.
Just imagine. Just
you have
that's a slogan is different from a name. A slogan is different. That was a slogan. Yes, you can is a slogan. Yes, we can.
Councilor Gonglo say a better Liberia is possible. That's a slogan. A better Liberia is possible. Boaga say what arrest. That is his slogan. You know,
What about
Colin
risk?
said, I
What about
think
risk?
something long ago,
I don't know
Liberia
what
deserves better or something.
I don't know, but
No, now they're calling themselves. Somebody said rescue mother, rescue one, rescue two, fix
Yeah,
someone.
you know, that's like,
that change our system. Will go to Brazil. In Brazil, you can put a an anecdote, I should say. You can put a name of a figure that you admire or you would like to be. Like in the Brazilian election, there were a lot of black candidates who called themselves Obama. They were there as Barack Obama. They, even though Obama is not a Brazilian, but Barack Obama picture was on the ballot because that's how the person said, I'm Obama. I'm gonna lead like Obama. So let's just do it so that maybe somebody can say I'm Abba Paul and they put Abba Paul picture on the ballot.
And talking about that, I learned recently one country, I'm not sure if it's Brazil, you are allowed to register with a political party, but during elections, you are not allowed to vote for a party. You just vote. You cannot vote as a partisan.
Oh, every country.
Yeah. You don't vote as partisan, right? You just vote.
You just vote. When you vote, you vote for anybody you want to vote for.
Right.
All
I
right.
could be a Democrat and you vote Republican.
We see you. Let's go through our thing.
Okay.
Like you now, you are UPP, but this year you're going to vote CPP.
This year I'm leaning CPP. That is correct.
Yeah. So it happens all the time, but you're registered UPP.
Who's
you
CPP?
like the PP business?
Victor is CPP.
I am leaning CPP. Yes, I am leaning CPP to the angst of my wife. You know, my wife from Nimba, Councilor Gonglo is a family friend, and so
don't simplify like that. I don't think she's leaning Gonglo because it's a family friend.
My wife is conflicted. I'm not going to say it.
Victor on the show, I listened to Nico. Nico said she was leading Boaca. I listened to her. No,
all right, gentlemen. Thank you for the show.
My classmate from Samaris.
Thank you.
Thank you for the
for years. So.
Thank you for the show, gentlemen. Let's get your closing comment so we can draw down the curtains for the night. Let's start with Mr. Gonglo.
Well, Dennis, tonight has been fascinating as always. We talk many issues. I think we'll try to reason together on some of the issues surrounding, vote buying and cheating the election. And I think this is a critical discussion that we should repeat almost every week or maybe every month. Let's look at the election issue because for now, for the next 4 months, this is one particular issue that will determine whether Liberia will move closer to being a Haiti or will move closer to getting away from Haiti. I've always argued that if we elect certain group of corrupt people, we'll be taking Liberia closer to Haiti. Because the wave of crime rate in the country today, the level of corruption, the level of insensitivity today, if you elect another group of hungry thieves, you are just actually validating and giving them more arms to steal. And the country is not going to be better. If we don't get better and we have more hungry people, more drug addicts, more Zogos, we're going to start to run for our own citizens in the city, just like in Haiti today. From one area of Haiti, you get on the bus, you have to get down to every checkpoint. As we speak now, I know a Liberian who is married to a Haitian and she lives there. And I always speak to her, once in a while, we exchange calls because that's my former classmate from LU. And it's like Monrovia in the 90s, every checkpoint you get them because that other territory is overseen by some drug law, some militia, you got to pay to pass. So we will get that country closer to it if we keep electing thieves.
Thank you. Rufus J. Flomo said, Bob Elvis, why are you complaining if you are a supporter of the government? Why support a government that is non-functional? Don't sympathize. Don't be a sympathizer of a government that is non-functional. Complete tabata. All right, Victor, what's your closing?
Thank you, Dennis, and thank you again, guys. It was a wonderful opportunity here, hanging out with you and discussing Liberia. Thank you to our listeners and their input as well. I'm bothered by the silence of the opposition on this bull-faced violence that's already creeping in the electoral process. I see the president dismissing people for allegedly supporting other people. Yes, he appointed the people, he has the right, but when the mayor comes on the air and publicly, threatening government officials, I think he should really be taken to task. These are people who work for the government. The government is the government of the Republic of Liberia. It's not a CDC government. The people are serving the Republic of Liberia, and the Constitution guarantees that to them, that they have the right to associate, choose to associate or not to associate. Even if they were, in the government and supporting them, there are the opposition members in the government. So I really think the mayor really needs to stop. He really needs to grow up. He has to stop this little youth brigade, militant brigade, where he goes out and just beat people up and all of that. That is really uncalled for. And I really hope the opposition they should take up this issue. They take this man to court. Let the court issue an injunction on him on this irresponsible comments that he continues to make. All this little childish high school militancy is uncalled for. But what it has the potential is to unleash violence in this upcoming election, and that is really uncalled for. He needs to stop. So I really hope the opposition, they will unite on this issue and tell him to knock it off. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Duke?
Yeah, thank you, Dennis, and thank you, Victor. Thank you, Clebo, for good discussion. I think we covered a lot of ground tonight, and my take from all of this is, votes, the process is very important. The electoral process is important. Yes, I'll give kudos to the Election Commission for finding 26,000 duplicates, and I hope they find more, and then they find more illegal voters registered throughout the country so that we have a peaceful elections. And I think, talking about the mayor, I think one, has to even ask the question, does the mayor have the right to be campaigning because he's paid by the government? But he's Secretary General of a political party and he's campaigning. That's illegal. So before you even get to the fact that he's creating violence or installing a system, a climate of violence, let's talk about that first. He's not supposed to do it. So if you can stop him right there and say, you know what, either you're mayor or you're campaigning for a political party as a chairman of, as what you call Secretary General. So you decide, but you can't do both. So before you even go to the violence, that's where you stop him, because that's where the illegality of his actions begin, and that's where you got to stop him. So having said that, I think it was a great show. Dennis, thank you for moderating, and everybody's happy, and we look forward to next Thursday.
Thank you. Please remember to think about the country of origin. I know Victor kind of was quiet a little bit, thinking about it a little bit more. So after this show, please think about it. Joaquin Akalasi said, fixer, sweeper, rescue, they're all good. We're Liberian. We don't have to follow any standard. So leave them alone.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time. I want to thank our viewers. I want to thank all those who watch and those who will watch later. Also, Darling said President Reagan came up with manga. Trump stole it from him. So it's okay for Cummings to steal from Ure with Fixer. So no big deal. All right. Thank you again. Always watch Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Until then, we're going to close with our song that says, we are all Liberians. Whether you support whoever, we are all Liberians. And that's the song. Good night, and God bless you.
We are Liberians. Liberia is